This evening, something that's been showing up quite a lot for people, especially, I mean, as far as I know, in the clearing community, because that's about the only people I seem to meet these days, is still a strong identification with phenomena. Phenomena meaning an emotion or a feeling. Now, very often, as far as I can understand, there's a good reason for your identifying with stuff. It's a habit, it's something that you've been conditioned to identify with over a long time, and you become familiar with it. You become familiar with certain ways of being, certain ways of thinking, certain feelings, and you tend to keep falling back into that default position whenever you notice something. Generally, what we fall back into, or what strikes us as more intense than anything else that we are strongly identify with, is based upon the intensity of the feeling. Small feelings, little things that pass, little thoughts, little emotions that are coming and going all the time, we give less attention to, of course. But when we get into something that's a bit more intense, we tend to identify strongly with it, and because of identifying with it, we actually give energy to it, which then makes the situation even more uncomfortable, which gives more charge to it, which then of course requires you to ask for help for some clearing because the charge has become uncomfortable. I think there's a fundamental issue here, and this is becoming like much else of information that I seem to be able to access at the moment, seems to be becoming increasingly clear and obvious from me based upon my own experience with all of this stuff, is that we all tend to, on some level or another, take ourselves a bit too seriously. We tend to think that we're the one feeling this, we're feeling that, this is my emotion, my thought, my whatever. And as many of you know, a lot of my stuff has been influenced by Buddhist teachings, and that sort of helps me understand from a different point of view, not just from a clearing point of view, what's going on. If you think, and I mean, this has all been, I've spoken about this many times, but I think because people still strongly identify with symptoms, as I say, physical, emotional, psychological, then it bears repeating to try to get people to really understand what's going on when the body experiences a strong feeling or strong emotion. And what will happen, of course, if we don't actually develop the ability to change our relationship to that particular feeling. As many of you know, it's just like it just keeps going. It comes back and it comes back stronger, and then you have to find a way to deal with it, to work with it, and it all becomes a bit of a challenge. So it's difficult to try to, I think, grasp the real understanding or the real concept of what's going on, because I mean, I take days to talk about this stuff, to try to develop sufficient background understanding in the individual that they can grasp what's going on, because without some sort of background understanding, it becomes very difficult to truly recognize what we're doing and why we're doing it. We often think that that we've got to do something about a situation. If we have a particular emotion that's uncomfortable, we look to ways what we can do about it to make it more comfortable. It's certainly, if we have a physical discomfort for whatever reason, we look at ways of what we can do about it. And of course, many people have tried many different ways. I personally don't believe doing anything about a situation has any value whatsoever. However, that's just my journey, my understanding, and I recognize that everybody else has a different journey, has a different understanding. But all the time we feel we've got to do something, what we're actually saying is that whatever it is we're dealing with is real. What can I do about it? And of course, the moment we acknowledge that something is real, we give it energy. And again, this could take another few hours of talking about, to try to understand why that happens, how it happens. but we've gone over this many, many times in the workshops and whatever to see just exactly what happens when we put our focus on any particular area whatsoever, that we create in the body a physiological reaction, a response. So chemicals are produced out of an electrical discharge in the brain. The chemicals produced, they eventually cascade into the body. We identify with the feelings. We think these chemicals are who we are. This is our feeling. And of course, when we think this is our feeling, then the feeling becomes even more intense. The more energy we give it, the more we have to do something about it. And that is a never-ending process. We're always looking at what we can do to make our life a bit more comfortable. If we were to understand that the world we live in, personally, individually, although later on, of course, collectively as well, but certainly individually, that our individual reality is based upon where we give energy, what we think about, what we believe, our perceptions, our values are all shaping the world we live in, and they've always been doing that. We tend to blame something outside of the self for situations when they go wrong, but in actual fact, it's still something that we have generated or created with or without conscious awareness. And so we have to look back at Jung's work on the shadow to understand how much the subconscious, what bigger part that's playing in creating the world that we currently believe we live in. And now you can go back, and a lot of people try to do this, and it just drives me mad, that they try to go back to a point to understand why this happens to them, what was the cause, did this happen, did that happen, or I was abused, or this happened, whatever and whatever. And you can only go back so far. You get back to a point where you think, oh, I think I understand what happened to me. But then you've got to question, well, so what? I mean, what difference does it make to your life now, continuing to believe that you were abused, or you suffered, or you had this experience or that experience that's shaped who you are now? Is it going to make any difference? Is it going to liberate you? Is it going to set you free from that past? Or having recognized or believe you've recognized some cause for why you feel what you feel, what are you going to do about it? And that's just madness, because you can go back and back and back, and you're never really going to find the true cause of what's going on. I don't believe it's something that's of any value whatsoever. So rather than try to go back and work with what you believe happened, which in another sense again was an illusion, was a story that you believed in. You believed in it because you were conditioned to believe in it. You believed in it because you were brought up in a particular environment that supported that belief, and so it goes. But ultimately, whatever you believe happened to you, and it stuck. It only stuck because we were not in true understanding of what was going on. When we become more conscious of what's going on, and how this all happened, then we can begin the process of liberating ourselves from this conditioned past.